Hello, or welcome to episode 26 of Medieval Britain. My name is Ross.
I'm Craig.
It's time to put the kettle on because it's tea time. Hello, Craig.
Hello. It's a nice change of decor you have there.
Yeah, I've just travelled back 100 years, where we open fires and stuff. Had to temporarily leave where I normally am, and I found this beautiful setting instead, which is now getting excruciatingly hot. So let's start before I melt.
Let's do it. I have a few pieces of news this time around.
All right.
Not a lot. So, yeah, I'll try and get through them as quick as I can.
You want me to go first? Because it's my talk today.
Oh, yes. Yes, you should go first.
Do things. So first of all, I mentioned last week that we should be in a better position this week in regards to the coronavirus. And I checked earlier on today, and basically the situation now is that the new cases have dropped down to basically where they were before the current lockdown started. So early December, they've gone all the peak and they're all the way back down again. And more importantly, the number of deaths have now gone over the top of that curve and are now about, on average, 10% lower than they were before. So progress. So yeah, we are looking like we're getting to the end of this now, dare I say it. My next bit of news is a few weeks ago, we showed you the Boston Dynamics little dance show. Spot in particular. Well, Spot has been demonstrating his little pincery thingy that he has, and he's been doing jobs around the house. He's been picking up laundry and stuff on the floor and putting it away. He's also been opening doors and things for people. And he also stopped a nuclear reactor meltdown or something by turning a valve off. So, he's becoming a very useful little dog. Sort of thing that you might want to send into a dangerous zone, so that because screw Spot. Let's not get any humans involved, but let's send the dog in and assess situation, turn things off.
I'll also put some guns on it and send it to the front lines. That's definitely where it's going.
Oh, maybe that's one. And also, did you see the SpaceX's Starship SN9 flight? Did you see?
I didn't, but I think I heard about it. Yes.
I think it was yesterday, I think it did. So I watched the SN number 8 flight, which was awesome because it went up and it got to, I can't remember how many miles it went up, but it went pretty high. And then it powered all the rockets down, the little sideways thingy, and then it did as it fell down, it turned the booster back on and launched itself back up that way. Well, SN9 did exactly the same.
Okay.
They did exactly the same thing as SN8, but it went up higher. But just watching that thing where it's coming down like this, just seeing it sort of fly, obviously, from your perspective, it just looks like it's doing that, but it's kind of flying that way, trying to get back to its base. And then when it turns a rocket on, it just does like that. It's just awesome to see it happen in the middle of the sky. Unfortunately, it suffered the same fate as SN8. Whereas last time the pressure tank wasn't quite high enough, this time one of the engines didn't refire. And basically went and blew up, which is nice. But it actually blew up right next to SN number 10, which was already out. So if it hadn't got back to the exact landing point, it would have taken it out as well. Love it. Watching rockets blow up, it's just brilliant, isn't it? That we're there. Anyway, so those were my 3 items of news to get us started. What have we got?
Cool. I don't have exploding rockets. However, I do have a neural network inspired by a tiny little worm. So this is MIT's new liquid neural network, and it effectively learns on the job. So this is what they propose is how self-driving cars and all these real quick decision AIs would use is a self-learning liquid neural network. So it kind of adjusts its own algorithms the more data it learns.
Well, when you say liquid, as in, is it liquid in the sense that it moves and it evolves, or is it liquid as in you actually using liquid somehow?
Oh no, it's liquid in the sense it evolves.
Right.
So okay. Someone's written the base operation algorithms, and it itself can change those base operations should it learn better data. It can make itself better, more efficient. Exactly.
Gotcha.
So type of thing perhaps you'd want making decisions in a self-driving car, something that needs to do it split second and something that can learn as it goes. So the proposed things are self-driving cars, medical diagnosis, those type of things. But yeah, I mean, it's purported to be the future of robot control, natural language processing, video processing, any series of data processing, really, just the fact it can learn a lot quicker.
I don't know if you know how they used to do this. They used to use a combination of neural network and genetic learning, where it was called. Basically, you would create the neural network, and then it would populate itself or duplicate itself 1,000 times. It would give itself the task to do, and then each new generation, it would take the best ones and then modify it from there, and that's how it would do it. So that's how it learned. So they've obviously worked out a way of doing that without having to do the generations, just self-contained learning within itself.
Yeah, I mean, it may still be doing that process of evolution. Not really sure, but yeah, it's doing it on the fly and it's changing its base algorithms. Perhaps, yeah, with those standard evolution metrics, you'd say pick up fruit equals 1, don't pick up fruit or die 0. So it's a simple mathematical calculation going back and forth. Whereas it could potentially learn other things are also a 1, other things are also a 0. Those type of cool metrics.
Perhaps the way I think it works is it basically would because obviously you've got like mutation, so you could have 1,000 copies of the same neural network with ever so slight things, and then they would all do the same task, and then whichever one did the best, they would dump off the 999 that didn't do very well, and then it would mutate the one left over and repeat the process. And that's why there were generations of neural networks. But anyway, irrelevant. They've solved that problem. They've made it better.
Similarly so they're no longer modeled on humans, they're now modeled on worms because they're just simply better. A nice piece of news for the EV market in the UK, that the UK has installed its 4,000th EV rapid charger. So we're still a way behind places like the Netherlands, for example, but we are catching up.
I think they're extending the funding as well, haven't they? So that they're extending the funding up to 8,000. There's like 9 million being spent or something.
Okay, yeah, I didn't see that, but yeah, that sounds good. Either way, more the merrier. Since the market, as we know, is going to keep on going up, so these chargers need to be there when it does.
Yeah, it's like that family that we reported on the other week that couldn't get a charger. Those people, basically.
Yes. My next piece of news is just a bit of this happened. So Jeff Bezos has resigned as the chief executive of Amazon.
Yes.
So it was a surprise, but I think for his sake, I mean, he just proceeded over Amazon's biggest quarter ever with 100 billion in sales, thanks largely due to the pandemic, being the only supplier selling, non-essential things.
Yeah.
So they absolutely smashed their targets. Bezos will still sit as the company chair, so he'll still be in the company. And obviously, he has significant shares. But yeah, he's going to hand the reins to his understudy, who he's been grooming for some time, Andy Jassy, who is the chief executive of the web services side. And AWS is purported to be, I think it was 51% of all profits on Amazon.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
That is that successful.
Yeah.
So it seems like a really cool guy to take the lead since, he's done really well on AWS. See what he can do for the rest of the company.
Late 90s or something, so he's been there a while.
94.
I've heard two sort of ideas. One is that they're peaking right now, and actually, to some extent, he kind of said that in his interview. He said like that they're as innovative as they've ever been, but you could also read that like we can't get any more innovative than we are now. So one person that looked at it is like, well, you just had the best year ever. Inevitably, there's going to be a couple of years now where it doesn't go as well, and potentially Jeff Bezos can't be bothered to be going. So your share price has been going down for the last 2 years. He would just be like, no, thank you. I've already lived through one financial crisis. Can't be asked to do that again. I'll step out and play more fun stuff and compete with Elon. I'm trying to get my rocket space.
Yeah, that has been suggested. That's what he's looking to do, is focus more on his other ideas, other inventions. But yeah, he has said that Amazon is grown primarily on its inventions, and he hopes to see it continue. And Andy Jassy will be the person to take that forward. So yeah, it's to see how that changes. Hopefully, Amazon will start accepting Bitcoin. We can only hope.
That'll be nice.
And my final piece of news is the Elon Musk reveals the monkey with a little mind control chip playing video games, and he reports it's very happy.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know how you test how happy it is. Maybe it just really enjoys the game it's playing. Like, I don't know. What's it playing?
Well, they were trying to get
Crash Bandicoot.
I think it's just ping pong.
It's ping pong.
I don't think there's anything particularly amazing.
I mean, if you just strap a PS2 on him, that's kind of what you want. But the cool thing is he successfully tested that brain chip, and we did report back on this. I think it must have been September, where we watched the announcement event of this, where they kind of had a couple of pigs just chatting back and forth. It didn't really look too impressive, and I think we were kind of disappointed. Mm-hmm. So I would like to see this monkey personally. I would like to see it doing this thing.
Oh, see that monkey. But,
yes. Either way, playing games via a link up is amazing. I want to see it happen. And to help understand how it does happen, over to you, Ross.
Yes, thank you, Craig, for your geniusly invented link. Link, not any old link, but Neuralink, which is today's topic. That and a few other extended things to that. So what I wanted to go through first, so yeah, before we go into Neuralink, I want to go over not so much the history, but sort of set the scene of where some of the progresses we've already made. So we all know our human brain is pretty impressive. 100 billion neurons all linked together in different clusters that control different things. But you can think of the human brain as a general purpose computer. It doesn't have a goal in mind when it sort of starts, if you see what I mean. So our 100 billion neurons are like tiny little files, all designed to store or do certain things, and they are grouped into different collections, and then we link those together by whether or not they are related. But so instead of it being a computer that has code, millions of lines of code, it just has all these different connections to a neuron that can store an image or a letter or a word, a smell, a sound, a concept, whatever. When you run the computer, those files slowly rearrange themselves into that sort of whether those are relevant to this or whether those are relevant to that. And they evolve when they do that by strengthening or weakening the synapses that connects between the two. So that's why stuff like if you smell oranges, that might remind you of a time that you played in a football match, and because you had oranges at half time, and you might remember how your leg hurt that day, or how cold it was, or how noisy it was, or that sort of thing. That once a neuron fires, it fires all the other ones nearby, and that's how you end up linking things together and remembering stuff. So the way that your brain gets its inputs is by the things that are plugged into it. So as humans, we have 2 cameras, a smelling device, tasting device to speakerphone thingies, and a whole mass of sensory pad which is wrapped around us. And all of those things feed in inputs into our brain and are as different things, whether it's light or vibration or pressure or temperature, whatever. It feeds all that into our body, and then our brain uses the neurons, adapts them to where they're arranged to take that data and make it into meaning something. So if you think about how we see, like I was, if you look, you feel like you're making sense of the world. But if you actually think about what's actually happening in your brain, your cameras are just taking in light, and then you're translating that into this thing that we perceive to be vision. But at the end of the day, you could take the eyes away, you could take all the other things away, and then plug other things in, and it would still work, but potentially just in a different way. And that sort of, when you think about that, it becomes sort of slightly, well, this is mind-boggling as to what is then the potential. Because what if you change the input? What if you remove something? We've probably all heard of that idea that people who are blind have extremely, very sensitive hearing. Like people think, is their hearing actually better than someone who's blind? Or maybe you've ever done one of those listening walks through nature where you're supposed to close your eyes and just sort of listen to the sounds around you, and then all of a sudden you realize that you can hear more, pick up on things. And so it's not that their ears are better, or that all of a sudden your ears work better when your eyes are closed. It's just that your brain's got a lot of process, and if you take away one of the inputs, then the other inputs can be are more aware. There's more processing power for it. And also, if you're blind from like early on, not only do you have more sensory power for it, but over time you tune it. So you will actually then end up having better hearing, because you can detect noises that other people would perhaps not have been tuned into, because you have more time for your body to go, wait a second, that's different to that. So that's just the power of the human brain. Then there's the skin, our canvas for tattoos. As you may have noticed, if you ever had a tattoo, you got a tattoo, Craig?
I haven't.
I haven't got one either. But so I'm told, depending on which way you decide to put your tattoo, there's different levels of pain, and that's obviously because your skin in that particular area has a lot more nerves than somewhere else. So if you think of it as like that, we've got a pad of skin where certain parts of the body will be much more sensitive than other parts. So like stuff like our fingertips are very sensitive, our tongue is very sensitive, our lips are very sensitive, things like that. So because of this sensitivity, and your brain's ability to interpret, you can theoretically add to your skin, and over time your brain will learn to interpret what the touch pressure or the temperature actually means. So, and if there's a way of getting immediate feedback into a feedback loop, the brain is then capable of manifesting that interpretation in its own way. So, for example, you could put a touch sensitive panel onto your forehead, put something there, and then if you're blind, and you put a camera attached to that, so let's say you're wearing your hat or something, and then so on your forehead where it's relatively sensitive, you can put a camera, feed that data directly to your forehead. So your brain would then be receiving this sort of tingling sensation of thingy on the forehead, and then over time it would learn to see by that feeling that they're getting on their head. And because there's that instant feedback loop of going, right, well, if I walk up to the door, I can feel it, I can touch it, I know it's there, then it's telling your brain when it's correct and when it's not. It's the feedback loop. So you can learn pretty quickly. And obviously, so you can use the forehead, you can use basically any part of the body that you want to, which is pretty cool.
Yes.
So theoretically, you could use any part of the skin and put in whatever data you like. So there was a TED talk once where this guy was getting the data set, which was he found out everyone's in the audience. He found out who they were and what their Twitter account was, and he basically had something processing the sentiment that was coming out of their tweets. So if they were like, a positive tweet, then he would feel that as a positive tweet, and if it was this is rubbish, then he'd feel that as a negative tweet. So he could literally, and he put that data onto a vest which he was wearing under his stuff down his back. So literally through his back, he could feel the love from the audience or the disgust, whichever. And that was how he did it. So then you can go, well, if you can do that, what else can you do? So I personally, I kind of, it's weird, but I kind of love the concept. So if you could feed any data in, what would you use that for? So you could track your like if you knew where your friends were. Let's say you had I don't know why your friends would agree to this, but if you had GPS coordinates, whatever, of your friends, and you had a computer processing that, and then you could have it so that there's something over your shoulders which told you when they're close or when they're nearby. So like if you were out socially and you were trying to like find your friends, whatever, you'd know that they're over there somewhere because you can feel them on your left shoulder. And if if they try and come up behind you to spook you, you'd be like, you'd know because you'd feel it right in the back of your neck. So that's one idea you can have. You could also, what else did I write down as an example? Like the ability to sense magnetic waves. Like if you could, if you had some computer that was around you that could pick up magnetism or whatever, and then you could like put like things on your hands or something, and you could literally go like that, or you could like even use it as when it's dark and you can't see, and your natural instinct is to kind of go like, where is everything? But like imagine if you had something there on your hand, and then you actually could just go and you were to see whatever you like because you've got some sort of like proximity radar thing going on in your hands. So you could do that theoretically. There would be nothing to stop you because you just basically when you're near something, you would just do that, and when you're not near anything, it would just be something. It's relatively simple concept of how you would do it.
There's a guy who has done that. He put neodymium magnets in his thing, and he can actually interact with things, and it's kind of moving under his skin, so he gets used to that feeling. So it's a B-Tech approach, but
it's a very physical,
similar job.
Okay, fine. Not sure I like that one. I put the idea of it connecting to a computer and doing that rather than actually putting something in.
Do it properly.
It could just stick to your hand. It wouldn't have to be anything that's actually in the skin necessarily. And because we keep talking about investing, another one you could do, for example, is I could test my Tesla stock, and I could wear like a belt or something around me. And then if the stock price dropped heavily, it could like give me a pain in the stomach. And then I could be out, doing my shopping or whatever, and then suddenly get a pain in my stomach and go, oh God, Tesla's going down. Oh no. And then I'd be bent over in the shop going, I need to sell.
Is that a gut feeling?
Exactly. That's why I went with the stomach. But yes, in theory, you could do that because you can't watch stock market all day. It takes time to sit there and actually just stare at a screen all day. Yes, you can get alerts, but how cool would it be if you could actually feel at any given moment whether things are going well or badly or whatever context you want it to be.
Yes.
And obviously that one potentially you could change. Like today I'm watching Tesla, but tomorrow I'm watching, Virgin Galactic or something, and then it would be interchangeable. It'd still feel the same. You still go, oh no, something bad's happening at home. I'm losing money. Cool. Yes. Do you? So have you got any? Is there anything that you would do if you could? Because we've talked about it before. Is there anything you would do?
I couldn't really think of any definite things I would love to do besides. I mean, like there's cool stuff like sensing Wi-Fi. That's quite useful. Like I have internet issues in my office that it would be nice to know where things are stronger. So that'd be quite a cool little sense, just a little boost. but thermal vision too. That'd be quite interesting to see, like thermal radiation in some sort of way, whether you feel it or not from a distance. But for me, the things to improve would be the bugs in the brain. Oh, your fire's gone out.
Well, don't worry, I'll fix it. I'll chuck some the cardboard there. It's just a bit high. That's the problem. It can't. But anyway, don't you worry about it. Carry on.
Cool. So things I would like to fix are the bugs in the brain. So stuff like correcting the circadian rhythm after a long flight, or the feeling of thirst and hunger. You kind of get those, like thirst, you're already dehydrated when you feel thirsty. And hunger happens all the time because our silly ape brains are 50,000 years out of date and they just tell you to eat, eat, eat. Why aren't you eating? So just fixing those
that sounds like
bugs.
Yeah, that's a different thing. We're not talking about. I want a sense that you can add, but okay.
Yeah, so I give a couple of senses: sensory Wi-Fi, thermal vision. But ultimately, what I want to do is turn off some senses rather than add.
Yes, but they're internal to the brain as opposed to. Yes. Hello. Back up.
There
that went last on the comfortable. Anyways. Right, where was I? Okay, so we've covered input to the brain, but obviously input is only half the problem. What about output? And that is where Neuralink comes in. So what they're trying to do is create a wires basically thinner than human hair, and they're trying to wire it directly into the neurons in your brain. So when the neurons are then activated by some synapses, the thought process that you've had, it will pass an electrical signal. It's trying to detect that electrical signal and then beam it somewhere else so that we can then view it, see what it looks like. So as I mentioned before, two related things will have a strong synapsis. So that will give us a clear indication of whether that's important. So if you get like a lot of activity in certain, you can determine from that, if you know what the input was, like you said, right, to the person doing it, think of a bus, and then you can see which neurons light up because it's related to things to do with the bus. Then you can obviously pick that up, and then you can slowly learn from that what the person is thinking about. But equally, obviously, if you saw a train or something, then you would not expect the thought in your brain for frog spawn to activate, because the two aren't related. Unless, of course, you're the sort of person that takes frog spawn on the train, but presumably you're not. If Neuralink were able to distinguish between when you're thinking of one thing or another, like just the most basic example, on or off, then you can then imagine it going, right, well, what room are you in? If you're thinking on and off, and I know that that's what you're doing, I can determine from that you're probably wanting the light to be turned on, or the kettle to be turned on, or whatever it is. Even if it's just a binary thing. Obviously, as it gets more advanced, it will be able to take from that more complicated thoughts, eventually, left or right, or if you're trying to. The idea of driving with my mind feels like it's a bit scary, but that idea, determine one thing over something else. So far we've seen Neuralink demonstrate, as you mentioned, a chip wired into the brain of a pig. You can use that to represent what the pig is detecting through its nose. So basically, as the pig was rummaging around, eating stuff and smelling stuff, we were hearing beeps to represent that sort of thing. So to some degree, within those beeps are telling us any information like, what does it smell like, or what is it as far as the pig is concerned? If the pig recognizes it, is it something that it likes or doesn't like? All that information is hidden within those beeps. So if you can do that, then it's not a huge mental leap to think that we could then take the pattern that we're seeing and then be able to put it up on a display that they're currently smelling poo, or they're currently smelling hay, whatever. because once you know what it is, you can then translate that out and then show it elsewhere. So if you can do that, then what else can you do? So in China, pigs were used, they were monitored, and then if they started acting weird, it was a sign that there might be an earthquake coming or due very soon. Have you ever heard about that one?
I haven't. That sounds pretty cool.
It's just something that they noticed that, one day the pigs were acting really weird, and then like the next day there was an earthquake, and that had happened like multiple times, and so now they've determined that pigs somehow can detect very subtle vibrations, I guess.
Yeah. I've heard of animals sensitive, but not necessarily pigs.
Pigs very clever.
Seemingly so.
They can do all sorts of things. They can surf. Anyway, but yeah, so if you can do that, then you can literally get the pig to activate. If you've got 10 pigs in a farm, they all start thinking earthquake. Then you can go, right, well, it's official. There's definitely going to be an earthquake, and then you've got an early response thing there, which would be rather useful, one would assume. Right, so, and then obviously, if you can do pigs, then we can do potentially dogs, are man's best friend, and then you've got potentially more uses like trying to find people who are in an avalanche or in a broken building or whatever, and rather than the dog just being trained to just go, woof, we would be able to know what they were thinking, so we could then determine the difference between I found someone and oh, food, or whatever. You'd be able to, in theory, you could have your dog have a collar like an up, and you would at least be able to then determine, food, cat, whatever. Not that you'd want to do that, because that would be annoying.
So we're thinking that dogs could talk with this.
Well, in theory, if you can put it in their brain, you can determine certain things, and detect what that is. Then, in theory, yes, you could get a dog to talk, albeit maybe only a Pix of 5. Yeah,
The future is so exciting.
like terrifying.
That'd be amazing.
But I imagine it'd just be the same way, wouldn't it? Walk. I don't suppose they're having thoughts, but whatever.
Yeah, you'd have to have some sort of repeated pattern filtering.
Yes. Don't say the same thing more than once every minute. Right. So, but who's inventing this stuff? Who's working on Neuralink? Who does Neuralink owned by? You've already mentioned his name. Is of course Elon Musk again. Same guy who's trying to take us to Mars and everything else. So he's famously warned. He's actually not. He's concerned of general purpose AI being a threat to human existence. So it sounds weird, but his answer to that problem was to create OpenAI. So the theory is that if we give a general AI power or responsibility or anything like that, then basically inevitably something will go wrong, and if it decides to turn evil like it does in like Terminator, Skynet type thing, we're screwed. There's nothing we can do about to fight it. It's far superior to us, and we're dead basically. So as soon as we can't beat the thing, and we already know that if it gets beyond us we won't be able to beat the thing, then we would need to at least upgrade ourselves to the same level as it so that we could fight back. And that's kind of part of the reason why OpenAI exists and kind of why Neuralink exists, because Neuralink would then give us the access to be effectively a threat to the AI and be able to fight back. So whether you agree with that or not, that's the kind of reason behind it, I believe. Now, as you've already told everyone, he brought the news yesterday, or was it yesterday, about the monkey playing games. The key part from that is it's transmitting wirelessly, which is the thing. So little chip in his head, can't see it, you have no idea it's there, but it's able to set whatever it's working out from the signals it's picking up. It's able to transmit that information wirelessly to a device. So he's just sitting there looking at the screen or whatever, and it's moving around. The fact that you can do that means that you've now got a situation where you've got inputs which we can modify, add. I mean, removing requires surgery or being born that way, but you can add things, and then you can also change the output. Now, that to me is like mind-blowing to the possibilities of that, because if I can now,
Yes.
add a sensor to my skin or whatever, that I can detect something, and then I can then decide to do something with it, then well, I mean, you can detect. Well, what could you do? I can't even think that there's probably so many. It was something ridiculous. I'm trying to think of I feel like you could become Iron Man at that point, because you better sort of like go, okay, there's a problem over there, or someone's screaming in that direction. So I'll now think, and then the boosters will come out of my feet or whatever. I won't have to actually say anything or do anything. I could just think it, and then it would happen. Mind-blowing stuff. Scary too, but whatever.
It really is.
Obviously, that's not the intention.
Yeah.
The intention of the technology is actually to sort of help people who are disabled or for some reason can't stuff, to give them a slight high quality life, or enable them to be more autonomous at home and do their own stuff. But getting up and down the stairs, things like that. But once you've got input and output handled, go and design yourself a superhero, and then that's then possible. And on that complete bombshell, that is really my topic for the day.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's exciting, but also scary. I think from September, I think Elon himself said this is 5 to 10 years away, perhaps, and it would be in the hands of people with disabilities first.
Yeah.
So the whole idea of phantom limbs, where they have replaced arms, they can then start feeling those arms, which I believe they can to a certain degree now already, but to a much better degree. And the ideas of people who can't see, like, for example, there's a condition called blind sight, which is there's an error in the brain that prevents them seeing, but the eyes work perfectly fine.
Right.
So there's the idea then of reconnecting the brains, or re-encoding what the eyes see in a different way to bypass the broken circuitry in the brain. So then they effectively could see again. So stuff like that, is very fixable for this type of technology, which is amazing.
But that's interesting itself, because you'd think that the brain would suggest to me that the input is going through, and then for some reason it can't pass through to the next bit. So the brain's not aware that it's broken the connection. Because I think if it was just like some dead cells or whatever, it would just reroute to somewhere else. But it must be like it doesn't know that it's not getting through, sorry.
Well, apparently the experiments on blind sight is not all of it's getting through. So someone who is blind sighted, they can still sense presence, and they can still detect light and dark. Not everyone, but some. Right. So it's just, we don't actually know the reasons, but it's a brain damage issue.
I also wonder whether, if you were to feed through, let's say, electromagnetism or something, I don't know how you do that exactly, but if you were able to feed that through to the brain, would it could it even change our sight? Depending on how the data was presented, could it make us feel like our whole vision goes red or something if we detect it? Or is that even plausible? I don't know, because I can't quite get my head around how what we believe that we see is just light coming through to our eyes, and it's our brain's interpretation of what we see that we see, if you see what I mean.
Well, not to get...
We're not seeing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Our brain is giving us the impression of seeing, and therefore, if you can change the input, then would the brain just go, well, that belongs over here, so I'm going to put that into the visual stuff, and I'm going to give you something that gives you that. I don't know. It's weird, because at that point you could be what you see. That's messed up.
I mean, exactly. I think that's the mad concept of it. And I can't remember who said it, but the idea of the brain is just a 4-pound, slightly salted lump of bacon that's sitting in a vat, hallucinating everything we know. And that's as far as we know, it's completely true. Yeah, we could be sat in a glass jar for as far as we know.
Yeah.
Like, there's no actual evidence outside of the brain.
Yeah.
There's no way it can disprove itself. So,
but it's
in
like
that case, I mean, yeah.
it's seriously censored as well. So like knew that was going to happen. Like so, like if, you probably haven't got this problem, Craig, because you don't have hair. But like if I touch the end of my hair, like there are no nerve sensors in the hair itself, and yet I feel like I'm touching that part of my hair. Like that's how sensitive it is. I could touch it there. I could touch it there. In theory, I'm not touching anything different, but yet I feel like I know that I'm touching that part of my body, even though it's not connected to any brain. It's part that it's not. The follicle is connected to. That's where the nerve is up here, not there. That's how sensitive it is. So when you think about that, and you think of just how subtle differences, just one movement there can make me feel it here, here, and here, and somehow my brain tells me, oh, that's the bottom of my hair. Then if you can do that, then like, and we already know our fingers are super sensitive. It's like you could put a different sense on each finger or something.
Yeah.
Be walking around and you could just feel something. Oh, my little finger's going. Oh dear, the wife's home. No, I don't know. Well, I can't never think of one. No, but yeah, there's so many potential things that you could feed through to your body. But
I
it's
mean, the inputs, yeah.
it's the
Like,
feedback that you need.
go these like smart doors and stuff. So the inputs are there. I mean, when someone's at the door, you can just feel it. No more bells, no more noise. Just feel it.
Yeah.
And the idea of to be able to play music in your brain, I think that was also suggested by Elon. And just have music playing in your brain. There's just, just there. it's just creating the auditory experience, and it's perfect quality because it's just played through. There's no problem in a sense.
Yeah, but
again, you could just walk up to someone, you don't see headphones, and like you're just talking to them. Oh, sorry, I had music on. Oh, okay.
But it feels like if you were to add like a different sense for something else, and you added it near the ear or something, like that in itself might be enough to connect it to the same neurons in your brain that deals with sound. And then even though you didn't actually play a sound, it feels like you could put a sensor somewhere else and we might still hear it as sound just because it decided to do that.
Yeah, those are the bone conducting headphones. The ones they vibrate onto the bone and the ear itself vibrates.
Right.
So there's no actual physical sound. It just vibrates that the inner eardrum.
Exactly. But yeah, so that's anything that touches our skin would do the same thing. But it'd be like, yeah, you might see it as like a visual thing, or you might see it as you might feel the music. Or, I don't know. There's all sorts of potential weird things that could happen. But I like the idea of having different sensors for different things. But it's the feedback loop. You need to have, in order for it to be a very subtle and have all that information, you need to have the ability to know, not just feel it, but to be able to detect it, and it has to interact with your other senses. Like the sight one only works if you walk into something, you've got that immediate feedback, and that's how you can kind of pick out the subtleties of it. Or when you've got people who blind and they read with their hands, the fact that it's so they can just do that skim reading thing. They can only do that because of the very tiny little details in their fingers. So. But yeah, so there you go. That's the app for the week. Go and find yourself a weird data set. Bring it forward. Check it in the comments below. That'd be nice to get a comment. Coming up with what sense of data you would like to be able to feed through into your body at all times.
All times. Yeah. It's a hard one. But interested to see interested to see some comments and what people
feels like there should be loads. When you try and think of one, it's actually difficult to come up with a really good one. But it's just like someone's going to come up with that. And then
I mean, it's the new apps, it's the new world. I mean, the future's amazing. Yeah.
Good. Well, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next week.